Welcome to chess, ladies and gentlemen. I got some chess for you, homie, so don't worry. You guys know we got the Sinquefield Cup going on, or you should know by now. We got the Sinquefield Cup going on right now, and this is round number 7. So we got Fabiano Caruana versus Wesley So. For all the marbles, I'm playing. We got Wesley So, he is leading right now, and then Fabiano Caruana is kind of in the pack, like the second place pack. So all of my people coming from the Philippines, I would say maraming salamat. I appreciate you guys very much for coming by. Anybody else from around the world, I appreciate it very much. But if you guys are ready to go, man, let's take a look and see what we got for this game, homie. So we got the move D4. Now, one of the things I will say to start the game off is Fabiano Caruana is normally a E4 player, but, I mean, he's trying to kind of throw Wesley off as much as possible, so he does play D4. And I will say that Wesley does take a little bit of time to kind of do this first move, just kind of gathering himself to say, hey, man, how do I want to try to punish D4? It's not punishable. E4, D4, like such sound moves. But anyways, man, so we got knight to F6. We got starting the Indian game. We do see the move C4. We got E6, and then knight goes to C3, and we are inviting the Nimzo Indian, and we do see it on the board, bishop to B4. Asking white, what do you want to do about my bishop, homie? We got the move E3. You know, white's not generally, worried about the bishop. We'll kind of get into the intricacies of the Nimzo Indian in just a minute, because I got some points I'm going to be talking to about it. But we do see the move C5. We got knight G to E2. We see the move D5, attacking the center that white has established so beautifully. We got the move A3, and then we do see the move bishop to A5. And we've been playing pretty much the majority main type of moves, at least the top like 3, 4-ish. And this one, I will say, is quite a sidestep. And so, I was saying I was going to get to this in a minute. So, basically, one of the major points of the Nimzo Indian, you kind of have two main, points, ideas that you're trying to employ. You're very seriously wanting to control this E4 square. Either, you're trying to prevent white from playing their dream E4 pawn move. And you, in some situations, you are saying, hey, man, I want to plop my knight down in the E4, create a whole bunch of pressure and tactics going on. So bishop going back, also, so that's one of the things. The other thing is you are wanting to possibly give white some structural damage after bishop takes C3. And then, of course, black is going to want to try to keep the position closed. And white, with their double bishops, is trying to open the position up. So it's like a battle of all of those different things. So now that knight G to E2 has been played, it's not as much of a factor, but I mean, knight to E4 is still somewhat of a possibility. So going a little bit forward, we do see pawn taking C5, pawn taking C4, and then bishop to D2. And you can see that at this point in the game, all of that is pretty much null and void. There is no knight to E4, obviously, because knight will take E4 and you just down a piece. And you can't give white structural damage anymore. So that is one of the slight drawbacks of dropping back bishop to A5 instead of taking the much more common bishop takes C3 when you had it on move number 6. We do see knight B to D7. We got knight going over to G3. Because bishop to D2 does hold this knight on C3, you do kind of want to make sure you get out of the way of the queen and the bishop. Of course, you do want to reestablish yourself and make sure that you can grab the C4 pawn before maybe like a knight takes and then A6, B5. And I mean, sometimes you can hold the pawn, so you got to be careful with that stuff. So we do see the move B6, and this is the novelty of the game from Wesley So. And if you want to go ahead and pause the video, it's also against the move time. There is a very good reason why B6 at this particular moment is a novelty. So if you want to go ahead and pause the video and try to guess and see why that is, go ahead and do so. Okay, so it's absolutely not a blunder. It is somewhat of a question mark behind this move. For those of you guys that are wondering, it's very directly opening up this diagonal to the rook. Now, in some of these Queen's Gambit scenarios, and also in some Rubinstein, French Rubinstein type situations, moving B6 at the wrong moment can really just greatly backfire. Because like I said, you do have this open diagonal to this rook. And we see Fabiano Caruana taking advantage of that immediately with queen to f3. One of the things I will kind of proudly say, we didn't get an interview with Wesley So, but b6 is definitely a move in some of these situations. And I really kind of think like the move b6 is more of a thing in this type of a position right here with, you know, you have the queen is blocked and you don't have the ability to take advantage of the diagonal like that. So if you're going to push b6, it would pretty much be right now. But after the knight has moved and given freedom to those pieces, that is when b6 is a little bit of a question mark. Like I said, queen comes to f3 and you know, you still have an okay position. Like, you're not absolutely losing, but you have kind of made it a little bit harder for yourself, and you have restricted your moves quite a bit. We do see one of the best moves in the position by Wesley So, rook going to b8. The computer had this crazy line with bishop to a6, and then after b4 en passant, you're going to be giving up a bishop. And it's literally claiming that's only slightly worse than the position that you see with rook to b8. That's a computer for you. I don't believe it, man. But anyway, we do see rook to b8. We got the move c6. So this does kind of allow, you know, white to kind of like give a little bit of tempo gains on black. We do see knight to e5, and this is hitting the queen. We do see queen to f4. We see bishop taking c3 and bishop taking c3. Knight taking c6. Okay. So it might kind of seem like, I mean, we just kind of went into some trades. Black kind of got their pawn back. Like, bishop is going to take c4. Everything is pretty even, right? Well, this is one of the things that I was kind of talking. Well, I actually didn't. I don't even think I hit this before. So when you're looking at this position, you know, like kind of like around here, you know, you played bishop to d2. You know, bishop to d2 isn't like absolutely as ideal as you'd like for it to be. You'd like to push this move e4 and give your bishop just a little bit of a better square, like maybe like a bishop to f4, you know, even bishop e3, bishop g5. These are definitely much more aggressive squares for the bishop. So you don't necessarily kind of just want it sitting on bishop to d2. Like, it's not, you know, living its best life, right? So going forward to what we had in the game, we did see this situation here. So, admittedly, white does have somewhat of a slight issue with their bishop, and that's why the position is not, like, great for white. It's just slightly preferable. So, what Wesley So actually does by taking on c3 and allowing the bishop to take on c3 is Wesley kind of, like, helped Fabiano improve his own bishop. And that is definitely not something that you want to do. This is literally something that we saw Aronian do with Wesley So when he kind of started opening up, you know, the board for his bishop. So one of the things you want to kind of think about when you're playing your own games is, you know, going into trades or going into specific moves, you have to kind of calculate and think, is this going to help my opponent better his pieces or her pieces? Is it going to allow them to better their pieces? And you really want to kind of make sure that you're not doing anything that's going to help, you know, your opponent, you know, win the game. Because sometimes it's more of, you know, you helping your opponent win the game as opposed to them just beating you. So be careful with that. So we did see this position here. And then we do see, like I said, knight taking c6. And it kind of seems like everything is everything. We do see rook hitting the queen with d1 first, queen going to e7. We do see bishop taking c4. And I mean, like I said, I mean, look at these bishops. These bishops are on beautiful diagonals. And I mean, it definitely is much harder for black to play this. Like I said, it's not absolutely losing, but it is definitely much harder for black to play. And so with the rook being on b8, we're saying, hey, man, I'm going to push b5. I'm going to try to kick your pieces out a little bit, right? In this position, we do see bishop taking f6. This is absolutely the best move. And then we do see queen taking f6. And some of you guys might wonder, after bishop takes, I mean, is it possible to take with the g-pawn? And then maybe, you know, you might be able to see some rook to g1. Maybe you can kind of see some pressure against the king. Well, this would be absolutely losing, though, because you would see the move knight to e4 or knight to h5, and you are threatening a really beautiful looking mate. Let's say that black is like, hey, man, I just want this bishop because I like material. You would be looking at knight takes f6 with check. And then if the king steps over, you would be looking at queen to h6 with checkmate. So you really want to kind of give your queen up in this situation. So be careful about that. That is why we see queen taking d6. And then we do see queen to d6. And this is just adding an insane amount of pressure on this knight. And, you know, we still don't want to go and just grab pieces because we'd be looking at queen to c6 with check. And then the king would move, and then we'd see queen check here, and then we would be picking up this rook for absolutely free. So we don't want to go ahead and do any of that. So in this situation, after queen to d6, we did see the move e5, just trying to protect all of that. And then we see the really, really nice bishop takes f7 check. You really don't want to move the queen because, like I said, you still see that same scenario going on with trying to win this rook in the corner. So we do see king taking f7. We got queen going to c7 with check, and we are going to be picking up this knight. You know, the queen really doesn't want to step down here because you got rook coming up to d6. You really kind of have rook coming up to d6 either way. We do see queen to e7, and then we do restore our material equality here. And I mean, white definitely just has a pawn. So they're about +1 in this position. So they're not like absolutely demolishing black. This is definitely still a survivable position for Wesley So. But we do see the move bishop to b7. And this allows Fabiano Caruana to win another pawn. And it really just kind of puts black in a situation where they are just really, really too dominant. We do see queen taking b5. And with the immediate threat of rook coming to d7. And that is lights out for the queen. So we don't want to allow that. So in this position, it is very, very much suggested, and you really kind of want to get all your pieces in play if you are black. So rook h to d8 is absolutely the move that you really have to play in this position to make sure that, you know, you're not dropping any rook to d7s. And at any point, if you do have to back up your king somewhere, you know, you have not stranded this rook on h8. We do not see that, though. So going back to what we actually saw, we saw bishop taking g2, which kind of seems like, hey, man, I'm taking this pawn right here. I'm hitting this rook. You know, this rook is hitting this queen right here. So that has to be good, right? Generally, it is. But the major issue that you're going to be seeing going forward is the fact that white has so many different checks that they can place on black. So it is going to be a situation where white is always able to kind of weasel out of what black is doing. The first thing that we see is queen to c4 with check. And then you see the move king to f8. There really wasn't anything better. This king is way too open, so you really don't want to move further down the board. So the king goes to f8, and then we actually see the move knight to f5. And this is asking a very serious question to this queen, and you don't have a lot of squares you can go to in this case either. We do see queen going to f6. We do see queen checking on c5, and this forces the king more or less over to g8. And then we do see the move queen to c7. And it is in this position that Wesley So resigns the game. Now, I do believe, for the most part, that this position right here is kind of like, it doesn't really seem like it's just crazy won by white, right? It kind of seems like black maybe can do something like, they might be able to get this rook in the corner. Like, I mean, it's like they're going to be able to kind of get out of this, right? This can't be that bad, right? So let me explain to you why it's so bad. And this is obviously something that Wesley So was able to see. You absolutely, under no circumstances, can take this rook in the corner because this queen taking b8 would be with check. And the problems that you're having, I mean, you pretty much only have, you know, king to f7 because if you try to block with the queen, you see rook to d8, and you're really, really sad. So we're not going to be seeing that. In this position after queen to c7, it is suggesting, the computer is suggesting that you create some look for your king. And you see the position that I was talking about before, how this rook is really stranded in the corner and it's not doing anything. So rook h to d8 was definitely one of the absolute has to be moves. So we would probably see the move h6. We would see rook going to g1. And you have a really, really bad pickle right here. This rook, this knight, this queen are all hitting the checkmate square. Well, I mean, of course, if the queen hits it as checkmate. And your bishop is hit. So you might kind of think, hey, man, can I throw rook to b7 in there and kind of throw in a little, you know, Zweischenzug move? No, because like I said, queen coming to d8, and you are constantly weaseling out of anything that black can do. Queen would probably have to take on d8, rook would take on d8, and then you would see a position like this where the king would come down to h7, rook takes with check, king takes, and then rook takes. And I don't know anybody in the world as black that wants to play this kind of an endgame. You'll get a pawn, but that's about it. So it is in light of that that Wesley So resigns the game. And this is like one of the best variations that you can choose. It can go downhill much worse than that. But I appreciate everybody very much for stopping by. Maraming salamat aking makaibigan. Magandang umaga to you. and anybody else from around the world. And I'll see you guys next time.